Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 28th September 2016. The first article is related to the story of two caste struggles by Shiv Vishwanathan. When I discussed in the class about democracy, I spoke to you about substantive aspects of the democracy and procedural or process aspects of the democracy. Elections are the procedural aspects of the democracy. The substantive aspects of the democracy is about the values, or it is about justice, equality, rights of the citizens, etc. Now, the elections are a process through which we make the representation, and ultimate objective or end of the democracy is to achieve for the justice, equality, rights of the citizens. So in this context, there are two threats to the democracy which are growing today. One is religious majoritarianism, and the second one is caste atrocities against the Dalits. Now if you see the religious majoritarianism, so under this, the assertiveness of one religious group over the other religious group is increasing. It is leading to cow vigilantism, etc. Now coming to the caste atrocities, there are two things which are clearly visible. The legal protections which are being given to the lower castes have to be done away with. Especially if you see in Marathwada, Pune, an agitation has occurred for the removal of the SC/ST, the protection of, Prevention of Atrocities Act that need to be repealed. For that, a movement has occurred. And added to that, the upper castes are demanding for more and more reservations. Now, what is the assertiveness of the upper castes? Now, the procedural democracy, it depends upon the numbers, but both for the majoritarianism and the caste atrocities are caste-related factors. A procedural democracy runs on the basis of the numbers. So, through numbers, the castes are able to accept the positions of the decision making, and they are trying to influence the justice, equality, and the rights of the downtrodden. So, this kind of democracy is not going to be sustained, or it will not in accordance with the constitutional values of our country. That is what the author talks about. Now coming to the troubled waters, it is about India-Pakistan Indus Water Treaty. Now after the Uri terror attack, India has taken a slew of the steps, and one among them is Prime Minister Modi has called for the interaction on the Indus Water Treaty. Finally, Prime Minister made an important comment that blood and water cannot flow together. So in this scenario, it has been said that India is going to withdraw itself from Indus Water Treaty. But as of now, India suspended the talks of the Permanent Indus Water Commission. Now, the Indus Water Treaty was mediated by the World Bank. Now, if India withdraws from Indus Water Treaty, what will be its repercussions from China? Because many of the Brahmaputra and many of its branches, they flow from China into India from Tibetan region. And the second thing is, what will be the stature of India with regard to the Committee of Nations? So India, if unilaterally withdraws from the treaty, how it will affect its future as a global power which is aspiring for the permanent seat in the United Nations? And the third thing, if India has to obstruct the flow, it has to build the dams. So, how many years it is going to take to build these dams? And it is going to be an expensive matter for India. So, the diplomacy has to happen behind the curtains with a rational mind, not be with populistic tendencies. So, populism shall not guide the diplomacy. The mass orientation or mass behavior shall not guide the diplomacy. Critical thinking and rational analysis shall be the guiding factors for diplomacy. Another thing which has been spoken about is removing the most favored nation status for the Pakistan. Now, if MFN status is removed to the Pakistan, will it affect the business of the Pakistan anyway? Because 80% of the business between India and Pakistan is happening through third countries such as UAE. So it means already there is no significant business, and this MFN status removal will not do much harm or much damage to Pakistan. So India has to think with a cool mind and has to apply its thought before it takes up any action. Now, debating America. So yesterday there was a great debate between presidential candidates of United States of America, that is Mr. Donald Trump and Ms. Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary Clinton, she has spoken about reviving the economy by focusing on the expenditure and buying capacities of the middle class. And Mr. Trump has spoken about tax concessions to the corporates. By tax concessions, he will try to increase the more investments and expand the number of jobs in the country. So the argument typically falls into the socialistic kind of argument and the capitalistic kind of argument. So the Trump's argument is more of capitalistic kind, where more the surplus capital is available with the companies that will be used for the investments and it generates the jobs. But however, the quality of the debate has decreased due to the personal attacks made by both the candidates against each other. Now, coming to the uniform asylum law, the next article. Now, if you see Mr. Bukti of Balochistan, who is living in Switzerland as of now, he is seeking an asylum in India. So, do India have any law for the asylum seekers? India has any uniform policy for the asylum seekers? Now, if you see, India do not have any domestic asylum law, and India also is not a signatory for UN Refugee Convention of 1951. So, in these circumstances, India is dealing separately the refugees from Tibet, Sri Lanka, Burma, Bangladesh, etc. For everyone, they have a different set of the norms which India has ad hoc dealing with them. So, in this context, how India has to deal with Mr. Bukti is the major question. What this article suggests is India shall have a uniform asylum law for the different communities which wants to make India as their country, or where the communities are facing the retribution in the other countries. They shall have a uniform asylum law in India. Now, coming to WTO ruling. Now, let us understand about Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission. So, under this, a company or any person can establish a solar park. He is called solar producer or solar power developer. And the solar power developed by him, it will be brought by the government. From the government, it will be sold to the discoms. This is what is the JNNSM talks about. Now, the solar power developer, he has to procure the solar panels. So, what the domestic procurement or domestic content requirement says is 30% of at least the solar panels he has to procure them domestically. This is called domestic content requirement. Now, the major competitor for the solar panels is United States of America and the Europe. So, it has been challenged in the WTO, and WTO has said that the domestic content requirement of India is against to the world trade norms. Why? Because according to WTO norms, every country shall treat the products from the other country with nationality treatment. It means there shall not be any difference between the imports and the domestically produced goods. But there are certain exceptions to this. What are these exceptions? If it is meant for government procurement, it can talk about the domestic procurement. Or it is, if the government has to fulfill an international treaty obligation, yes, it can fulfill that through the domestic requirement. And if the goods are in short supply, then the domestic or else this competition clause or else equal treatment clause can be violated. Now, none of these three are being satisfied by India. That's why WTO Appellate Tribunal has given a judgment against India. So, in this case, India is trying to increase bilateral trade with United States. As of now, it stands at $100 billion and India is planning to raise it to $500 billion. So, more and more the trade barriers are erected by either of these countries. Reaching of this $500 billion target of the trade will not be a reality. Now, coming to the graphene nano sheets. From graphite, these graphene sheets layers have to be brought out. So, these graphene sheets have greater electric conductivity, so they can be used for circuit boards, etc. Now, most of the cases, this is exfoliated through use of oxidants and reductants. But now, use of the glacial acetic acid, ultrasound, plus some use of the solvents like water, they are able to extract the graphene from the graphite. by the University of Madras. That is an important development. And Indus Water Treaty, you all know that it was signed between the Prime Minister Nehru and General Ayub Khan. So the Indus Water Treaty, according to that, the western three branches of the rivers, Indus, Jhelum and Chenab, they will go to Pakistan. The eastern branches, that is Ravi, Bias and Sutlej, that will come to India. So in this context, how this process, what are the events that have unfolded? These have been explained from the diary of K.V. Padmanabhan, who was the IFS officer over there. Now, coming to World Economic Forum, World Competitiveness Index. So this World Competitiveness Index is based on 12 parameters. India is able to jump the 16 positions and it is at the 39th position with regard to competitiveness. What made India to jump these? One is innovation climate that is existing in India, and improved goods efficiency and business sophistication. These are the three factors that made the India to improve. But however, the one factor which India is being pulled out, that is what is the technology or the technological readiness. Because India has a huge digital divide in the country, the rural-urban divide in the access to the technology that made India to lose its ranks. So now India stands at the 39th position by jumping forward 16. And then India's non-military options. So that is, what are they when we talk about the non-military options? That is suspension of the bilateral trade across the line of control, and added to that 1267 committee, under 1267 committee of UN, India has to suggest the names of Hafiz Saeed, Zakirur Rahman Lakwi and Muhammad Azhar, etc. But however, China has vetoed them. So, and also isolating the Pakistan with regard to the SAARC summit, BIMSTEC, etc. So these are the various things that have been thought about. These are the articles for today. Thank you very much.